If there's one platform we've all used more than we ever thought we would, it's Zoom. So that got me wondering, who owns a Zoom recording? Zoom, the instructor, the interviewee, everybody participating? In this video, we'll talk about two contexts where Zoom is used a lot for online businesses and who owns that Zoom recording. Stick around to the end and I'll tell you what Zoom has to say about it. I'm Maria Spear-Allis, lawyer for content creators and online brands, and this is the Spear IP Show. There are two contexts where Zoom is used in online businesses. One is instructional, so you're using Zoom to teach something to online participants. It's kind of a one-way presentation. And maybe there's some Q&A participation at the end. And two is conversational, so you're using Zoom to interview someone for, say, a podcast or a video show. Both of these contexts have one thing in common. You are recording the broadcast. So let's talk about that instructional context. Remember, you're using Zoom to teach something to an audience online. I'm going to preface this by saying we're not really talking about the university context here, because that can depend a lot on the contract or the relationship between the professor and the university. So that might be something a little bit different. In general, if you're teaching and using Zoom, and you hit that record button, you own the recording. So what happens if somebody asks a question at the end and that question sparks more instructional material, more of the lesson? They could be deemed a co-creator of the recording. Let's be clear, not of the presentation itself, not of the materials, but of that specific recording. So how do you get around that? Well, it might be a little bit cumbersome, but the best way is to have your students sign a document beforehand acknowledging and assigning any rights that they might have in participating in the recording to that instructor. So document saying, I, student, by participating in the Zoom recording, grant all rights that I might have in this recording to you, the instructor. Another way is to use that feedback and the questions in that original recording and take it and create a whole new recording with a new presentation. Maybe you answer those questions that were answered during the live in that secondary recording. New recording, new ownership. Next, the conversational context. As you might imagine, based on what we just discussed in the instructional context, you have two participants in a recording, like an interview, you might have co-owners or joint owners of that recording. Unless you get that document in place beforehand. It makes clear that you, the interviewer, own the rights to that recording, not the participant or the interviewee. This can be easily done by a podcast guest contract, and I'll link to mine below. Finally, does Zoom have any ownership in those Zoom recordings? According to Zoom's terms of use, Zoom owns its rights to all of its trademarks, and you can't use their trademarks without Zoom's consent. And then in terms of copyright, you can't post or distribute or reproduce anything that belongs to someone else or violate somebody's rights without that person's consent. But Zoom doesn't say anything about owning the rights to your recordings. So to sum up, you own your own Zoom recordings by default. If someone else is participating in that recording, they could have some ownership in the recording as a co-owner or a joint owner. Get around any participant claiming ownership by using the proper documentation, and Zoom stays out of it. So I hope that helps you better understand who owns a Zoom recording, and I'll see you next time. Hey, head to spear-ip.com/quiz for my free quiz on finding and fixing the legal blind spot that's secretly killing your business. Yes, it will diagnose your specific legal blind spot and then tell you how to fix it. Again, that's spear-ip.com/quiz.